affiliated with the University of Oklahoma here in Norman. So yes, that would be me.
Any of the panelists can take over now.
All right, so I'll take it over from there. My name is Paul Atado. I'm a final year PhD student at the Western Michigan University. So prior to coming here, I had my master's at the Ball State University, which is in Indiana, in a very small city called Muncie. Currently, I'm working on my research, which is mainly on statistical network data and variational inference. I think, I had my undergrad in the University for Development Studies in Tamale. So during our time, we had 4 campuses, but I was in Navajo campus. Yeah, I mean, that will be all for now. Thanks.
All right. Dr. Corey, can you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Kweli. I did my undergrad in statistics. In actuarial science at KNUST. Did my master's at Montana State and graduated with my PhD in statistics as well, and in my PhD in statistics from Western Michigan. So during my master's, I was a graduate teaching assistant. During my PhD, I was a graduate teaching assistant as well. But I also interned with this as a pharmaceutical preclinical research company for about 3 years. It's called Charles River. Before I graduated, I started working with Premier Research in North Carolina, but I was working remotely as a statistician, biostatistician, and switched to Medtronic, and specifically in the structural heart and aortic with Medtronic. Yeah, so that's a little bit my research. What I basically did was Bayesian analysis and personalized medicine, specifically subgroup identification and for benefit risk assessment. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself, and good to see you all. Thank you.
Dr. Morgan.
Please, I'm not yet a doctor.
Oh, okay.
but I receive it. So Anthony Morgan, and I'm currently a PhD candidate at the New Mexico Institute of Mines and Technology, and also a research assistant with the Petroleum Research and Recovery Center on campus here in NMT. So I had my master's from University of Aberdeen from Scotland. So after my master's, I went back home and served as an assistant lecturer for about 2 years, and then before I came back to the US. So I also had my undergrad from KNUST in petroleum engineering. So that's the brief about me, and I'm glad to be here today to meet you all. I mean, I've been here almost 3 years now. I mean, like 2.5, almost 3 years. Yeah, I didn't really know much about GRASAC US though. Yeah, so thanks to Janet for hooking me up. Yeah, I mean, it's great to have such a community. All right, so thank you all.
All right, thank you all panelists. So we are so much grateful for making time to, talk on this issue with us. So we will just dive into our questions, and then I encourage our audience to post their questions in the chat as we go along. I will do my best to check the chat and read those questions to our panel members to address. So we want to start off. As graduate students, our ultimate goal is to excel academically. That's why we are here as a student. And so we would like to have your perspectives, especially our 2 doctors who have already graduated. I mean, you've been through all the phases of academic life. So we would like you to share with us some of the strategies that, you employed in order to be successful as far as your coursework is concerned. So I'll start with the only lady we have among our panelists, and then we'll follow up with Dr. Korede. Thank you.
I do have a question though. Do we know what percentage of participants are already in grad school, and what percentage are people that are aspiring to be, like, is everyone already in grad school?
I don't think so. I can put a pull up and we will see.
Okay, because that would also be helpful when we are discussing
Sure.
responses to some of these, to have, it would be weird if I'm giving some responses that is not relevant to anyone. Esther, this is a very broad question. And at some point I might chime in with some of the other strategies I use, but I think, and it's still a journey for me, even after grad school, there are still some of these things that I have to incorporate, but the art of saying no, because we tend to say yes to a lot of things that we don't have to say yes to. And also there's also I guess it's called the token. With diversity and inclusion and all of that, if you end up in a department where, say, you're the only international student, the only female, the only Black person, you might be asked to show face to a lot of things. So learning to say no to that. I also had to learn not to compare myself with other people. And that's a challenge in grad school. We're surrounded by superstars. And so at any point in time, if you start doing that comparison, unhealthy comparison, right? Sometimes it's good to challenge yourself, but realize that my journey is different from everybody else's journey. And so the progress, it's whatever I deem to be progress towards the completion of my degree. And I think I'll let Daniel add whatever, and if I remember any other things. It's such a broad question, so.
Yeah, it is.
In terms of strategies, I think it's a matter of the individual. So personally, some of the things I did that I think could be helpful will be, like, first of all, it's more of being, if you go to class, you try and identify those who you think are comfortable, because generally everyone might not be very comfortable in the class. So what I mean comfortable, I mean those you think know what's happening in the class. For example, like in grad school, there are some courses they're really hard to understand. So I realized I had these friends who really knew what was happening. So that way you get close to them, become their friends, and try and ask questions that you are struggling with. That's very important. So having friends that you think you can learn from is very important. In fact, discussing assignments and all that stuff. And sorry, I just had the pop-up. Apart from the studying, one other thing that I think is very helpful is having an idea what the expectations of the class are. Okay, so what I mean by that is you are taking a class. Every professor is different. Probably you've taken the class before from Ghana. The professor who taught it in Ghana is not going to teach it the same here. Even the same universities here in the US, everybody teaches it differently. So I think it's good to understand your setting and understand the course you are taking and the instructor and how they want things to be done. I think that's very important. So so get started. These are the few things I would say I would like to share about how to excel in terms of coursework. So there's a different aspect in terms of research. This is for coursework. So yeah, thank you.
So Anthony and Paul, what strategies are you employing? In your current state, I know Paul is almost wrapping up his degree, and Anthony is also middle way or somehow almost completing. So what strategies are you using to get to this far?
No, okay, so for me personally, I think our two doctors have said much. And so in my coursework, mostly. Say I was quite punctual in class. I engage in most of the activities in class. I mean, building the interest and having your own opinions about lectures or courses is also a key thing. Because I remember when I came on campus, I mean, some guys who were already here could give you notions about certain professors, certain courses, how difficult they are or how difficult the professors are, so on and so forth. And having that thought alone can scare you of some of these things and can let you down. But then my advice or one thing I took was to have my own notion, to go in there, look at how things are going, and then have my own perception about these courses. I mean, most of them, you just have to put in extra work and you're good to go. I mean, it wasn't anything so scary as they put it that could have scared me off from taking such important courses that could help me in my career. And also, we should not be timid. We should not be timid. We should, I mean, engage ourselves in class, ask questions. And there's quite some differences when we come here, as in most Americans are very outspoken. I mean, they can speak their mind freely, irrespective of whoever they are talking to. But in most of our cultures, we are sometimes thought to be a bit timid, even talking to adults and all that, especially even in our schools, talking to lecturers. I mean, sometimes it's difficult even, I mean, approaching your lecturer. So one thing is, I mean, you should not be timid. Open up, ask questions, have no fears. And also you have to submit your assignments on time, involve yourself in group discussions, and yeah, appointments with professors if you have any struggles. I mean, make the time to meet your professors and sort out all your, I mean, things that you think you don't understand out as early as possible to help you go in your next. I think that's what I can add. So let me leave the rest to Paul. Yeah.
All right, Paul.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
I think, I mean, most of my strategies have been mentioned by my colleagues. But then what I can add is that as a grad student in the US, it's very rigorous. I mean, the graduate school here is very rigorous. So one of the suggestion I can give is try and ask a lot of questions. I mean, there's no stupid question. I think there's no stupid questions. And make use of the office hours. You know, for example, if you're taking a course that is very hard, like I know most Ghanaian students that come here do struggle with real analysis. It's a math course. So, you know, when you find yourself in taking a course like that, just demonstrate, let the professor know you have interest in performing and succeeding in the class. You know, you can do that by making use of his office hours. I mean, my experience with that was when I was doing my master's. Yeah, I took a course that was very difficult. So, I mean, most of my peers were not doing well, including myself. So what I could do is just let the professor know that I really want to succeed in the class. And she was willing to stay in the office for till like 8 p.m. before, you know. So I stay in the library, you know, do the problems. And if I have any question, I go to the office. And yeah, so it was difficult, but at the end of the day, I was able to sail through. So ask a lot of questions, let the professor know that you really want to pass this class. Yeah. So I think that's all I have on this. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. It looks like all our panel members are saying the same thing, that office hours and knowing the expectations of the class and speaking to our professors. So I just have a follow-up on that same issue, because, you know, we come from Ghana, mostly right from school. Maybe some people don't even complete their national service and they are here. And back home, we have situations where you are even sometimes scared to even go and speak to your professor. So we come here with the same attitude and the same perception. So what would be some of the strategies or your advice to, let's say, a new student or even a continuing student here in the US institutions who are struggling to, speak to their, to speak to professors of the various courses they are taking, that, they know that they are struggling in that course. How do they go about talking to the professors to get the help that they need? And also, how do you get involved in group studies? Because some people are used to doing their own individual studies. And so how do you even start having a group studies with your colleagues? I know Dr. Korede did mention that you have to identify people who knows what is going on in the class, but sometimes the cultural differences can be a challenge. So what would be your advice to such individual?
We have 50-50 graduate and prospective graduates. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm going to jump in, and I think it was something Anthony and Paul said, and if somebody else said it, you can correct me. But in terms of engaging with in class and in professors, so I had, and for me, it's not, I did a little bit of high school in the US, but I think as a personality thing, I would not be the first person to talk in class or share my opinion. And in grad school, there's a lot of classes that actually, like, a lot of your grade depends on participation. And so one of the things I did for my class was, when I saw participation was a big thing, I went to my professor and I said, this is a problem I have. I really love this class and I want to do well, but I struggle to interrupt people or to find the right time to contribute in class. And so what can I do, right? And so there were two things. One, she had a discussion board for the class, but the second thing she did was specifically, sometimes she would say, does anyone else have anything to add? Or sometimes, which was a little intimidating, she would actually say, Dolly, is there anything else you would like to add? And that was helpful for me because I didn't have to struggle to compete with everybody else in class, right? So I think somebody raised that point where people are very, they are direct, they communicate a lot. So when you are going through that process of figuring out how you can merge your personality in class to succeed, it's talking to these professors. I also had a class that this was a GIS class. I took GIS in Ghana, but we didn't really do any of the practical stuff. And so when I got here, the whole thing was a mess. And I remember going to my academic advisor after class, and I just said, I don't know what to do about this class. And at that time, there were library resources and stuff. I didn't even know that. And then after my class, I had emailed just the class listserv and said, I'm interested in forming a group so I can, have more time to practice this coursework. And interestingly, there were other people who also wanted to do that. And so we ended up forming our group. And so just agreeing with what the other panelists said, it's, we have to get out of this shell where the way we were raised to treat people with respect can be actually interpreted as not knowing anything or not being interested. And so first we have to get out of our shells. We need to ask for help, but then also reach out to these professors in a very respectful and honest way what your problems are and ask them. Like, really, the big thing is ask people, what can I do to do better or to make all the, set targets for the class? And so that's what I will add to that.
Anything else to add, panelists?
Yeah, so I would like to add that. So when you interacting with your professors, don't feel free to get on the personal levels. If your advisor or professor likes soccer or anything, if they like farming, you're free to talk about it. Maybe that's what can connect you guys more. So be free to get on the personal level. There's nothing wrong with having a normal conversation with your. I personally, when I meet with my advisor, we talk 45 minutes on sports. He's a Chelsea fan, I'm also a Chelsea fan. So it's more personal even than the schoolwork. So don't be shy to be personal. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, like just like Paul said, if you really want someone to be your friend, you go for it, right? So in terms of class, for example, for me, when I came, I realized there were these classes that were very difficult. And there were some colleagues from China who really knew what was going on. Like the guy was correcting the professor in class, and he was always right, like all the time. So what I did was you try and find something you think they're interested in and try and become their friend. So that way, some of the things I did was sometimes you go directly to them, find out, like have conversations with them. They are human beings. If they don't want to be your friend, sometimes it's a matter of time. Sometimes they just don't want to be your friend. You don't force it. But me personally, it worked for me. So I spoke with them. We got to a point I understood it as much as them because I could like ask questions. I could even correct the professor too, but I didn't have any idea what was happening. So I think sometimes it's good that cycle is very important because it's very, because sometimes it's, if you really want something, you have to fight for it. So befriend somebody you think knows what's happening. Try as much as possible to be their friend, or like even that person, just find someone else you think you can connect with and start from there. That's what I would say. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Anthony, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just a little to add to all of that. And one thing I also realized was when I also came my first semester, there was one particular course. It was really, really challenging. But one thing I realized was, at least before I approach anybody, I should have gone through what we have done, try to do something on my own before I approach them. Hey, this is what I'm doing, but then I'm stuck here, or I'm not getting this. It was more of coding, and our education in Ghana doesn't really involve much of coding aside for the computer sciences, and yeah, so it was really, really challenging. That course was advanced numerical simulation, and every project we have to code. So at least I try to do my best, and as Dr. Daniel was saying, as well as Dolly and Paul, I pinpoint some key people in the class who were really good. They were Vietnamese guys, about 4 or 5 of them. Okay. So I went to this one, I went to all of them, book appointment with all of them, at least 30 minutes. So I go here, okay, you look at my code, help me debug a bit. If it doesn't have enough time, I'll go to the next person. So through that, I was able to pick up, and also went to the professor with what I have done. So continuously, the professor saw that, yeah, I had the interest for it, but just that it was my first time probably engaging in coding and all that. And he really liked the effort I was putting in, and she was always ready and available to help me throughout the course. So you try and do a lot on your own, and then you go and see them. But it's not really good to just go and be like, I don't understand. What don't you understand? And you'll be there, everything. No. So at least, yeah, get something done and go to them. So that's the little I wanna.
Yeah, I like to say something. That what Anthony said, he hit the nail right on the head. So you don't want to go empty-handed, because me personally, if you're coming to me and I see that you don't know what's happening, then I might quite distant myself. So what he said is perfectly true. You want to go with something, at least I have a starting point and just going like, so that's perfectly true. Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think on the same topic, as in grad school, especially in the US, they focus a lot on research work. And coming from Ghana, where even few undergrad students had research experience before coming to grad school here, how do we approach research work? Because I remember in my master's program, every class I took, we were expected to do project. And then going to my professor, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And sometimes I just cry, especially with GIS, I go and I'm like, I don't even know where to get data. So what are some of the strategies that you use, especially with respect to even your dissertation research, or some people even finish school with so many publications? How do we approach research as research work as grad student so that we have a holistic growth and development as we progress? Any of you can take it. Let me start with Paul, because you are still on your research work. So what are some of the strategies, even developing your research ideas, even with your term project and all that? How do you go about it in terms of research work?
Well, for me, it was quite difficult to choose my research topic and my advisor, because what I really wanted to do, I couldn't find a particular professor that has my very interest. So what I did, I chose a professor that I felt was very nice and patient with students, right? So even though I was going to do something new, I made sure I chose a professor that was very patient and is willing to take his time to teach me something new. And yeah, so that was my experience. And my advisor is very, very patient. He's not that harsh. Even when I'm not getting it right, he takes his time to explain and give me the directions that helps me to understand what I'm doing. So my advice would be when you start your research, or when you intend to do your research, just make sure you understand the basics, the fundamentals of the area in which you want to do. Don't rush. Don't feel like, hey, I'm not moving fast. Don't compare yourself with your friends. Maybe your friends may have done a lot and you are still kind of stuck. I mean, if you're stuck, that's fine. Try to understand the basics, the fundamentals. And once you have a firm grasp of the basics, trust me, you can do a lot of work in that area. Yeah.
Dr. Corey, research work, how do you,
Personally, what I did was, like Paul said, it's more of like understanding the basics. So sometimes if you don't understand the basics, it's hard to grow from there. So there are so many resources available. Thankfully, now YouTube is not only for watching Kojo Sheldon and stuff. You can do a lot more with that. Like, there are a lot of videos that are super helpful, not of like the same topic, but different people have interpreted differently and that have tried to explain it in such a way that it makes sense to someone who has no idea about what's happening. So watching YouTube videos, try and get, like, sometimes me personally, reading, even I'm done with my PhD, reading those papers, I still don't enjoy them. So try and watch videos that, like, you think will make sense, like can help you understand the basics. And now, like, read the papers. If you don't understand it, just stick to one thing for a lot. Sometimes it's not fun. Research is not fun, especially when you don't know the end from the beginning. So that's the fact, like, it's never fun. Sometimes you wish you hadn't done homework than doing research. So the thing is, just watch YouTube, try and find YouTube videos, or try and like find out if there are resources. The good thing is, here in America, thankfully, there are a lot of resources. You just have to find where to find them. I remember Dolly mentioned something about the resources in the library. So stuff like that. There are so many resources around that you might have no idea that they exist. So it's a matter of finding out resources that are helpful to you. So that's, well, stuff from. Yeah, thanks.
I guess I can add something.
Go ahead.
Yes, so I was gonna say, and Blessed made allusion to this fact, the fact that all of our graduate school journeys are not the same, because we end up with different advisors or in different research groups, which actually makes our experiences very different, right? And so I had an advisor who was very Well, my initial, I changed advisors a couple of times, but basically there was a time I had an advisor who didn't really have a group, didn't interact with a lot of people, didn't have a lot of resources available, right, for me as a student to succeed. Now, the thing I've noticed about a lot of people who succeed in research are, of course, apart from the fact that it's intentional, it takes a lot of time. One of the things is, if you're in a group or if you're collaborating with people. And a lot of people in graduate school, when they get to grad school, just like you would seek out people who are good in certain classes, you can also seek out professors that you don't necessarily work with to just ask again, is there a project I can help with? Like, there are always a lot of centers on campus doing related things. Sometimes it's data collection, it's analyzing stuff. So it's not even a full-blown project, but it's the fact that you're getting this exposure to be able to do research, right? And there's also conferences. So, and a lot of times we don't have the money or the resources to, pay to attend, but it's an investment if you think about it that way. So you go to a conference, you go to a session you are interested in, you are hearing all these ideas, you are hearing all these scholars talk, you are looking at the innovations in the field that you could potentially get into. And then also, you have to make time to read what's happening in your scholarship, so if it's even a Google Scholar alert every day that lets you know this paper is out, glance at it. And so it's just this big, and I think every one of the panelists alluded to it, the fact that it's an intentional process, that that this is what you need to succeed. You need to look out for the people that can get you there. And even if it's not your advisor, it's whoever is doing those kinds of work. Another thing, at least in my field, one thing that is being, championed is interdisciplinary research. And so a lot of people are in these big teams with scientists, social scientists, just all these groups. And so while you're in grad school, that's the best opportunity. When you have one of those term projects, you meet up with a few friends, make that term project into a paper you can publish, not just for class, right? And it's a good starting point. And you go to a conference, present that work, meet other people, see what they are doing. And so I guess that's the little I have to add about, how to do this research. A lot of the success will depend on who you work with, but if that success isn't from there, you have to find avenues to make sure that you are doing what it takes.
Okay, thank you so much. So Morgan, as I know you have something to add, so as you comment on the same topic, I would like you to also touch on academic dishonesty, because we come from a place where when you are doing research, I remember my research methods class, my professor only said that in my survey, I should just say that this survey will be unanimous and your details will not be given out. That was it. That was all about ethics in research that I heard about. And we are in a new place where academic dishonesty and ethics in research is very critical. So how should we pay attention, and how do we avoid the dangers of plagiarism or taking someone's work as our own and all that? How do we go about it in order to avoid falling into that trap of dishonesty in research and academic work?
All right, so thank you. Before I go into the academic dishonesty, I want to highlight a few points with respect to how to excel in research work from what three colleagues have already said. So one is knowing your main goal of whatever you want to research into, the main goal, and knowing the main goal, what are the objectives to reach that main goal. So the main goal, your objectives, are two key things for you to know that can guide you on the success of your research work. So once you know your main goal, your objectives, then you come to what are the resources and materials available at your disposal to achieve these objectives. Then comes to your detailed planning and strategies to execute each task with timelines, and also with consultation with your advisor or whoever your supervisor might be on all the plans for approval and inputs. That is also key, because You could do things on your own, but then if you don't seek the approval of your advisor, you might get to a point where your advisor's ideas and also direction might be different from yours. And most of the times it brings a lot of conflicts. And your advisor could rubbish what you're doing and you have to start over again. So it's very key or very important to always work hand in hand with your professor on your objectives, on your goals, and the direction your research has to go. And also, you also have to look into a detailed literature review before in the course of the work, detailed literature review, which would be a point with respect to academic dishonesty, detailed literature review whilst doing the work before and even in the course of it. And the output of the work, what do you intend to achieve at the end? Dissertation, thesis, or publications, or conferences, presentations? What is the output so that you know how to guide yourself with respect to which angle or how you're going to put out your results and all that. And also when you are stuck, don't hesitate to visit your professors or look out for experts who can actually help you out in your research so that you don't waste too much time in handling one particular problem when the other resources you can reach out to help you out. And the issue about academic dishonesty, it's a very, very, very key issue in US here and in the academic environment. It's a very serious issue that could, the worst of it all can get you expelled. Yes. And exam malpractices, that is one which we already, we are aware of. However, every examiner has their own do's and don'ts. Hence, reading instructions or getting instructions from professors as to the nature of exams or assessments are very, very critical. I mean, some could have open book, some could have no open book, or I mean, sometimes you have a take-home exams, and even if it's a take-home exams, some could resist that desist that from, let's say, discussion with other colleagues. They could say stay home, but then no discussion, and you have to abide by that just to avoid similarities in your work and other people's work. And the issue of plagiarism, when it comes to graduate students, that is one key thing: plagiarism in assignments, in projects, publications are very dangerous to our health. And you would be able to avoid plagiarism if you do a detailed literature review or detailed research into whatever assignment or research or project or report you need to submit. You have to take your time, do an intensive literature review, at least a very intensive literature review on the subject matter that you are dealing with, to make sure at least your ideas have not been published anywhere else, or even if it's published anywhere else, what other improvements or addition are you bringing on board? And you have to reference one thing about plagiarism, and I have had opportunity to look at a number of plagiarism or similarity checking reports. And the key issue they look at is, let's say you could have a whole sentence highlighted. Your whole work could have just a whole sentence highlighted, which could be from a particular paper or a particular publication. That could lead you to serious trouble. Or a whole paragraph highlighted, which shows a link to an already existing work. There could be certain terms which are common in our respective field, which could be highlighted. Those ones are not key issues because in the same field you're working in, and certain terms are very common. And so, but then the nature of how they are highlighted in a particular, let's say, paragraph, if a number of words or a number of terms are highlighted in a particular paragraph and it's linked to one particular publication, they can pick that up and see that, okay, you pick this whole paragraph from this particular work, and you didn't do a very good paraphrasing of that particular work, or you didn't even reference. You could have even referenced, but then once much of this is highlighted, that could put you into trouble. So taking the time to paraphrase, especially when it comes to the literature review aspects, to paraphrase everything and also reference everything correctly is very key. And other records, I can help anyone who is doing any work and is ready to submit their work and they want to check their work for any similarities or with respect to plagiarism and everything. I can help you check your similarity score and possibly do your corrections before you even submit to avoid any troubles. Yeah, I have access to Turnitin. And so, yeah, anyone who is willing to do that, yeah, you can just link up with me. I can create an account for you, and then you can submit your work, check it before you even submit, especially when it comes to your dissertation and also thesis. So yeah, let me leave the rest to the big guys who have
All
already
right.
gone through it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'll go to other panelists, but I think we have very important question here from our audience. I actually have two questions. One has to do with internship, but I will save it for one topic that we'll discuss. But since we're already talking about how to achieve academic success, there is a first-year student here in the US. He's a grad student. He's currently working, taking classes, and also working with as a research assistant, and he's struggling to create a balance. How do you make sure that you meet the expectations of your PI and also meet the expectations of your coursework? So any advice for such? I mean, this question is applicable to every grad student, honestly. So we would like to have your views on that.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of communication. I mean, so you have these meetings with your PI, and you kind of have a roadmap or a schedule of what you'll be doing till the end of the semester or till when you finish the project. So I think during every meetings, you could just ask that, what is your expectation? What should I get done by next week? You know, just be clear with that. What they expect you to get done, maybe in the following week. And maybe when you feel like, hey, you will not be able to finish, you let them know that, you send them an email that I'm having some challenges, getting to finish the task you assigned. So can you give me some extension or something? So I think it's just communication, sending emails when you're stuck and when you need any help. Just let them know that I need help on this to be able to finish the tasks that you assigned for the week. Yeah, it can be hard when you have multiple projects and then trying to understand the fundamentals of all that. And I mean, you cannot skip the fundamentals. It's very important. Unless you just want to do a project and leave it, that's different. But if it's pertaining to your area, I think the basics is very important. So taking your time to understand. And I think the PIs will understand that you need some time to understand the work before you can come up with any results or any analysis. So yeah, that would be my response to that.
Any other ideas on how to make sure that you are able to keep up and create a balance?
I was just gonna emphasize what Paul said, and with communicating expectations and aligning that with good time management. And so I guess they meet their advisor every week and they have to have some project as what the issue is. And so one thing I often did was basically every weekend I would have to allocate a certain amount of time for each of the tasks that I had to do. So if it was 1 hour a day for fundamentals, 1 hour a day for project 1, 1 hour a day for project 2, make sure that you are tackling each of these every week. And then in your weekly report with your advisor, because people want to know you're making progress. And so in your weekly meeting with your advisor, even if you haven't met certain milestones, he sees that you are actually, he or she sees that you are working on something, right? And you are making steady progress. And like Paul said, is the fact that even when you don't make that progress, you come back and explain why you didn't do it, and then say, but this is what I'm going to do next week. So that consistency in, like, you are not just sitting there doing nothing. And I will also add that I guess you have to know who your advisors are. There are some advisors that may perceive you coming to complain every day as a lack of seriousness, right? Like you are just lazy and don't want to do the job, especially if they have other students who have a similar situation you are in, but they seem to be producing results. And so that, which is why I think the time management helps you to make a case for, it's not just I'm not doing anything, I'm working on each of these projects. This is what I have to do. So I would even suggest like making it a shareable, like Google sheet, where every week you are filling in what you are doing, and they can also keep track of that. And I agree, it's a tough thing. And I mean, I had to work on 3 projects too, so I can certainly what's the word I'm looking for? I can empathize with the challenge, but you also have to, especially when they're paying you, they want to know that that money is being put to good use and you're producing results. And so it's just, I think it's a time management issue too, but also great communication, like Paul mentioned before.
All right, thank you. Any other comment on this issue? Okay, so I want us to go in, kind of change direction a little bit, but in the same angle. But here, we come here as international students. Some people have so many ideas back home that, oh, come to the US, you can get loans, you come here and your first semester, you pay the loans off and all that. And so people come here even with little or no funding, and it's kind of a struggle. So I know that some of us have had experience with internships and other ways of getting legitimate kind of income to supplement whatever assistantship is getting us. So I would like you to share your ideas on how to go about it. Which ways can we, take advantage, which opportunities exist for us to kind of get additional income to kind of make us feel comfortable and have that financial soundness when we are studying. So any of us can pick it up.
Oh, okay, let me just, so regards to like other sources of funding, actually, okay, the little I know is I had a like 20-hour research assistantship funding, and basically that is enough to help me with my fees as well as other expenses, even though we are in a small town, so the living condition here, living standard is quite low as compared to others in bigger cities. So 20 hours, it's at least, after they take away the fees, the rest, it's enough to take off accommodation and feeding. So, but on my campus here, there are other scholarship schemes every semester, and some of which international students qualify for or to apply for. And I'm sure others also have similar in other schools as well. But it's up to you to put in the application and hope for a better chance to win. Yes. They could also be program-specific scholarships in various departments. Yes. So I was fortunate to at least get selected for some program-specific scholarships. We are into petroleum engineering, so mostly our chapter Rosewell Petroleum student chapter, they have a scholarship that some companies sponsor certain graduate students. So you put in the application, and then if you're lucky, you get selected, and then you get some few thousand to support yourself financially. I think most of these classes are also published on the school's website. So the issue is being informed about most of these things. Once you get onto your campus, or before you even come on board, you need to go to the school website and look at all these possible scholarship avenues or other sources of funds that can help you, that you can apply. But it's not Kong that you're going to be selected for it, because the other people who be applying, but you're fortunate. Some you have to put in a very, very great a composition or reasons why you need a scholarship, and based on that, you'll be selected. So yeah, that's the little I can say. So I'll leave there.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Kode, can you, because in your profile, it looks like you've had a long internship experiences, can you share some of the strategies that helped you to even end those internships, and any advice that you have for our students?
Okay, so yeah, I'll share that. Before that, I would like to say a few things. So I feel like a lot of people come to the years and have too much expectations. So first of all, when you come here, you get your stipend, right? We should try, all of us, wherever we are coming from, we should try and live within our stipends. The reason why I'm saying this is sometimes you have like ideas, or you've seen another person.
Oh man, I think we are losing Dr. Kode.
Challenges of the Zoom world.
Yes, so technology has its own challenge. So
I think I have an idea of what he was trying to say. So I think what Daniel was trying to say is that like when you come to the US, and you should try and live within your means. So for example, I mean, when I came to the US, one of my colleagues that I came with the same semester, the same year, immediately we arrived, he bought a car, right? So, and I mean, he was coming from a different, home, and yeah, so do not try to compare yourself. Don't say because your friend has a car, you also want to have one. So try and live within your means. And yeah, don't, when we come here, we are so much into kind of making money as well. Just take it easy. There are a lot of opportunities here. I think the main focus should be your education. That's why you're here. That's the primary goal. So that should be your main focus. And then in terms of funding, like my colleague mentioned, Anthony, there are other external, apart from the internal scholarship, we have external scholarship as well. Like we have the Facebook scholarship. So if you are in the field of IT and science and those kind of field, you can apply for the Facebook. We have the actuarial scholarship. I mean, I won the scholarship twice. It's an external. I got like, so yeah, and these opportunities come as a result of networking, getting to talk to people, getting to attend conferences, getting to get yourself out there. Don't come here and just stay in your room and that's it. No, just get out there, connect with people, ask a lot of questions, and yeah, you get to know this some of these opportunities. Yeah. So I'll put it here.
Dr. Dolly, whilst you comment on this topic, there is a question here. I want to do this disclaimer that none of our panelists is here to offer anyone internship. So of course, they can suggest some of the strategies that help them secure internships, but none of them is here to offer anyone internships. Of course, they can share their ideas with you and you have to follow up or take the necessary steps to secure internship. I'm saying that because we have a question which was directed directly to Dr. Dolly about internship. So whilst maybe you can address it. Yes, thank you.
And I'm sorry, there's a siren that's going off here. I don't know if you guys can hear it. It's a warning system. They test it at noon every day. And so if it's too loud, I'll mute and talk. If it's fine, I can keep going. Is it okay?
Please keep going. We are
Okay.
good.
All right. Well, before I say that, because I was also trying to respond to some direct messages and, you know, I might be lost somewhere, but I was going to add to the conversation about scholarships and funding. Those are also school specific and field specific and sometimes program specific. I have a friend who came to do business, and in a lot of the business schools, they actually would give out loans to them. And then after school, and he's Ghanaian, actually now works at Google. And so loans are not, I am a person that does not, like, I can do grad school for free. I do not advocate for loans, but I am saying those opportunities exist for people who want to explore them. That's not the ideal thing, especially when you can get grad school covered for. The other thing I was going to say is, like in my school, for example, we have the graduate college scholarships, the scholarships to apply for travel grants for conferences, research grants. And so I want to agree with the other panelists to say, you know, try to live within your means, because whatever we get as a stipend is good enough, but also look out for opportunities that would help you to get a little seed money for research, a little seed money for travel and stuff like that. Now, the comments about internship, I think that's because Martin and I we are from the same department. And so that's why that question probably came to me. And I think I shared my email with him. We can chat about that some more. The main thing I was going to say is I didn't really do a lot of internships because those experiences for me weren't relevant for my goal. I say this, I use irrelevant loosely, right? Because for me, the things like teaching classes, well, I did have some internships, so that's actually not accurate. I just realized, oh, I did have some internships. But I told him I would speak to him. The main thing I'm going to say about internships are they are really field specific, such that the opportunities I got, I didn't actually go looking for them. A lot of the professors or people in my field I had conversations with made recommendations to me, right? And so there are different ways of going about this, and all of mine were all recommendations. So I'll chat with Martin about that later, since it's very specific to our field. I don't want to bore anyone else. So that's what I have to say.
All right, Anthony, anything else? Is Dr. Corday back?
Yeah, sorry, I had some technical difficulties. My computer went off on me.
So continue, please.
Yeah, so when I said something about living within your means, what I basically meant was sometimes people, like other grads, you get your stipend, right? You try and live within your stipend. You see another maybe person living a certain kind of life, right? You don't know where the person is getting the money from. Probably the person is doing an internship or working somewhere. So I feel like it's a general thing that automatically when you come here, you're going to be successful. So there's the struggle and the strive to go way above and beyond to prove a point. So personally, all I'll say is like, it's just live within your means. It's a matter of time. You get there, you understand? It's very simple. And one other thing about getting an internship is it's always advisable. That's why it's nice to see someone like Dolly trying to like interact with people who are still in. It's always good to talk to people who have been there so that you can get advice on how to get internship and things like that. Because me personally, how I got my internship was through a colleague. She had been here longer than I was. So when I go here and she was like, am I interested in the internship? I was like, yeah, why not? So, and I applied there and then, like that very moment, and I got the internship and I worked with that company for 3 years whilst in school. So whilst I was doing my teaching assistantship, I was still working with this company for 3 years. So that way I had like literally 2 streams of income. Apart from not just the money, but the experience. You cannot buy experience. So that was the big thing. Like, so it's a matter of like talking to people who have been there. Like nothing is new. Me that I worked, I'm sure somebody had worked in bigger companies than myself. So it's a matter of like communicating and talking to people who have been there. So all I say is communicate with people who have been there and see the opportunities involved. And when you see someone living a certain kind of life, just live within your means. That's a little I'll say. Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you so much. We have one question in our chat. So the person is a prospective student and he would like to know how to go about applying into a different program that is outside the degree that you had in your bachelor's. So how do you go about it? So maybe you did something in the social sciences and now you want to switch to the pure science. How do you go about it? Any ideas, please?
Well, I think it's very normal to switch areas of study. Is very normal to do that. I think what is important is demonstrating that if you have to write a statement of purpose, make sure you demonstrate the reason why you're switching from a certain field to something new. And if you don't have to write a statement of purpose, suppose it's a master's program, what you could do is that you find, you look at the website and then you find a professor that is doing what you really want to do, the new thing you are interested in, and then you send them a very nice email, very official, professional, and easy to understand email, not too long, not too short, be very elaborate on why, let them understand why you're switching from this and what you intend to do with a new degree that and what is motivating you to for your switch. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. Yeah.
Any other comments, please?
Is it on the application waiver?
Oh, you can pick that question. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
ahead.
So I spoke to a couple of guys who were applying to school here and in other institutions, and I think they wrote to the department heads about their challenges in getting the application fees, and some of the department have the policy of a percentage waiver they can grant to certain international or certain applicants. So they were they had their application fees waived. So sometimes you just have to reach out to maybe the head of departments of the program, or let's look out for a professor you want to work with and just email them as post a professional email, sometimes attach a statement of purpose. If you have your CV, your transcript, and if you have your GRE score, yeah, let them see what you are made of, and if they really see your performance, and yeah, they need to help this person. I think some institutions have that policy of application waiver to grant to applicants. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, I have something to add to that. So for the application fee waiver, I think what most of the school does is that they have webinars. So during those webinars, they put they grant application fee waivers. So you can look at the school and then check the date they have the webinar, and then when you attend, they give you a waiver.
Okay.
Yeah, so schools like Ball State University, when you look at, for example, their MBA program, they have, when you attend their webinar, they give you that waiver. So you can take advantage of that. And then also, as Anthony said, send them emails, let them know you don't have money, but you're interested in the program. Yeah.
All right, so I would like us to discuss time management, because as grad students, especially, we have some with families, some single grad students, and we don't want to just go to school from classroom to your dorm and then that's it. How do you manage your time so that you are not just only involved in your research and your academic work, but you are also engaging, like the school is passing through you. You know what I mean? Like getting involved in the entire campus and also making sure that you stay focused and stay on track as far as your academic work is concerned. So we'd like you to share some tips on how to manage our time and create studies-life balance so that we'll have a holistic graduate student.
I think time management, I'm probably like crazy about time management, but and you don't have to be like me, but I I love routines. And so I plan everything in my day, which is to a fault, right? So now I try not to plan everything, but like my parents know when to call me. Know when to call me. I have to text people, this is the time you can call me. But what that does for me is I schedule in when I'm eating, when I'm taking a walk, when like all these things that I think are important, I plan them all out, but then I leave room to fail, right? And so for me, when I started grad school, I realized if I did not actually plan it out and remind myself to do it, I ended up not doing them. The other thing I did to help make me accountable was to also have some friends who were not in grad school. And I mean, I don't know if anybody else had this issue, but for me, grad school, like I've been in school all my life, right? So grad school became like a defining thing for me. It was the important thing. If I was having a bad day in a class, it became as if my whole day was destroyed because of that one little thing. And so having people that were in this space to remind me that life is more than grad school was helpful, because I would plan out time to go. And I like going to the chapels. I just like quiet spaces. So I will plan out chapel time, go sit at the chapel, plan out Zumba time, go and dance a little bit, go to the gym. And so that's two main things: planning out everything, but having people keep me accountable so that even on bad days, I remember to do these other things that will keep me alive, keep me healthy, and keep me strong to keep going through the graduate program.
Anything else, please?
Yeah, so to add to what she said, so I think I'm the opposite of her, right? So I'm not very, I don't really organize my stuff like the way she, and I admire that. I wish I was like that, but hey, that's not me. So I mean, one of the things that helps me is that I have friends. So the classes I take, I also teach a class. So if there's anything that we have to do in common, maybe my friends will just remind me, hey, we are supposed to submit grades, midterm grades on Wednesday. So that kind of reminds me as well. If there's an assignment that is due, I communicate with my friends. So that also helps. Yeah.
Anything else on time management?
Okay, I think it's all about planning. Yeah, it's all about planning and adhering to your schedule. Sometimes it could be difficult though, but then you could always adjust. Maybe in the course of the semester, certain courses may be more intense than others. Yeah, you can adjust your timing and so that you don't waste much time on one particular course and then leaving others. Sometimes you'll be tempted to focus so much on certain particular areas because they are very challenging, and thinking, oh, others are a bit easier. So even at the last minute, you can just chip in and finalize work there. It happened to me once, and I was in trouble because I was focusing so much on very, very, very difficult courses and left others hoping, oh, these are easy ones. But then in the end, I had little time to complete, and the task for that was so much, even though it wasn't difficult, but the task was so much that I almost ended up not completing them. So at least you knowing how to balance the timing with respect to the which is more challenging and which is not, making sure to at least apportion some time for those you think you have upper hands on is also very key. So I think, yeah, the least I can add. Yeah.
I'd like to say something. I know my Esther is laughing. So with regards to myself, I'm that kind of person that doesn't like my time wasted. So for example, we planned, I'll pick you up at 3 o'clock. By 3 o'clock, you should be ready. If you're not ready, I'm mad. That's how extreme I am. Like that's how I was in grad school, especially. So one thing that I used to do personally was I know my schedule for the week. I had it on Google Calendar, right? Everybody has their phone all the time. So I know I have a class from this time to this time. So automatically it's going to tell on my phone, like everybody is always on their phone every time. So it tells me, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. Then again, like Dolly said, you should have time to, I play a lot of video games. That's a way to distress. So it's not all about like schooling, but you should have time to do like plan for having fun. And again, the most important thing is not being late for things that you are supposed to be there. For example, you have to teach. You have to teach at 2 o'clock and you are getting there at 2 o'clock. This is not Ghana. You understand? Like you have to be way ahead of time, prepare yourself, be ready for like those kind of, so it's not like you are doing something magic. You're just doing the tiny things. Like I said, I put on my phone. So I know that from 2 to 3 o'clock, I have to be teaching. So 30 minutes before 2 o'clock, I get this notification on my phone that, oh, you have to do this in 30 minutes. That's how I personally used to do it. So every time, like my phone is always by, they send me like this notification or maybe an email that you have something to do. So yeah, so in order not to be mad with people, you just give them that breathing space. You know that you have to be at 3 so that I not be mad and overreact. I tell them that 2:30, so that if anything happens, I'm not that crazy because I used to always get mad about wasting my time. Yeah.
All right. We have, I saw a hand. Datsun, if you still have your question, just unmute yourself and ask your question quickly. Datsun, do you still have your question? Okay. We will just continue on. Like I said, our audience, we appreciate your comment and then your questions. So just keep your questions coming. I will try as much as possible to balance your questions with some of the proposed questions that we had, so that we'll be able to address all your concerns. So I want us to discuss a little bit more about publication as far as graduate school life is concerned, because back home, some of my professors, I never saw any papers that they've written, but here in the US as grad students, you are expected to, depending on the field that you want to end up after graduating, you'll be in best position if you had research experience and you had some publications. So what would be your advice? Or if you had some publications and conference presentations, how did you go about it and how would those strategies be helpful to some of us? So we would like you to share your experience with respect to research work and conference attendance and all that.
Okay.
Dr.
So,
Na. Anthony, go ahead.
oh, let Dr. Na go. Yeah.
Okay, you sure you want me to go first?
Yeah.
All right. I think I alluded to this before. The I guess this is not, it's not like a warning or anything, but the thing I want to say is I want to preface this with, like I said, we all have to remember our journeys and try not to compare where we are with where other people are, right? Because take, for example, undergrads in the US now, some of them have like up to 3 publications. Before they make it to a master's level, they have like 7. And you are coming from Ghana where you came with 0. And so if that's your measure of success, then that's a problem. Like you're already beginning to give yourself all this stress that is unnecessary. But I will say publications are important. And I think Daniel also spoke about this thing. Networks are also important. Character is important. Performing well is important, right? So there's several things that lead you to a job. There are some jobs that if you go with 1 publication and you impress, is good enough. If you are going for a professor job, maybe that might not be good enough, right? So it's all perspective and what our long-term goals are and what we are capable of doing. But in terms of getting from no publication to some publication, one way I have found effective, which, I'm still trying to get that teamwork going, is working with groups. Not like a large, but, like a team of people who are experts in certain fields that are interested in a specific topic. Like you can just meet with a few colleagues and say, I'm really interested in publishing something. Do you guys have any ideas? You sit together, you do it. Like that's a good way to start, right? Because it's hard to go from nothing to doing it all by yourself. And I also say this because after my first publication review, I almost gave up my graduate degree because the comments were so, I can't even, before I start crying here, but those comments were very mean. And, and sometimes these reviewers know who you are. And I really felt like it was a personal attack against me, right? And so it's people not even having publications. It's not a reflection of the fact that they are lazy or don't want to do work. It could just be your paper keeps getting rejected and you need to keep going, which is why having good mentors and a circle around you. So my master's advisor, whenever we submitted a paper, he went through the comments and only came back to tell me, this is what I need you to work on. But I am proud to say I've grown to the point where I read the comments and don't take them personal, right? But that's one of those things. So I would say, start building your networks with your colleagues, with professors who do work that you think you are interested in doing. Start asking them little things like, is there any data you want me to collect for you? Is there anything I can analyze for you? Because sometimes you end up as like 4th author, but that's great. It's like, it's a publication for you, or acknowledgement. And then going for conferences, because then you are beginning to expose yourself. If you have some time, I would recommend volunteering to be an editor, a reviewer, a contributor for a journal. Because from the inside in, you can tell why some papers are immediately rejected. And then that puts you in a better position when you send in your paper, right? And so those are the few things that come to the top of my mind of how to do this kind of work, right? And excel in it.
Anthony, can you please?
I was waiting for Dr. Daniel,
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, please go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think Dr. Na has basically said it all. Collaboration is one key to increase the number of publications you can write. And you don't necessarily have to wait and finish your whole research before you think of even publishing. You can even do a very comprehensive literature review on the subject you are even working on, and then put it and publish it. So you don't only have to do a research article before you can publish. You can publish reviews, which in respective areas in your research field that you're working on. You can collaborate with people within your circle, even people others in different departments who probably you can collaborate. And 2nd, 3rd, 4th author, 5th author, it doesn't really matter. The only thing is you are an author and your name is there and it counts. it counts to the number of published publications. Sometimes you could just do a review of somebody's work. It's part of it. Reviewing the work, you could add you as an author for reviewing and commenting and giving some corrections. So yeah, I happen to have a very great professor who always encouraged us to publish, to apply for conferences, submit abstract. Once your abstract is accepted, he's going to sponsor you to go for that conference. And he always encourages us, and his policy is he will never work on any research which is not publishable. So he always encourages us. And so once you have any good ideas, just put it down and discuss with your supervisor or professor, or discuss with colleagues, and try publish it. Because as a graduate student, that is one of the only way you can put yourself or give yourself an exposure. That is through publications, through conference presentations, and others. So let Dr. Daniel give us more.
Thanks, Anthony. It looks like you said almost everything, like everything. But the few things I like to add is, I realized when a lot of people are doing their masters, there's the option to do the project as in writing something, or just doing the version where you don't have to write anything. If you want to do a PhD, I advise you choose the option where you write a paper, or everybody calls it differently, but some people call it writing project. Our advice, if you want to do a PhD, you opt for that version. Okay? Sometimes it's you choose what you want to do. One thing I like to say in terms of research is they are really brutal. The comments are brutal. So have the heart to be able to accommodate these things. For example, me and my supervisor, he's very super brutal, the one I worked with. He can send a comment and tell you this is an example of your bad grammar. And the grammar he has spelled it Grame. He can't even spell grammar himself. And he's insulting me that I can't spell grammar. Can you imagine? So that's how bad it was. Like, tell you all this is an example of your bad writing. He spells things wrong all the time. So it's funny and annoying at the same time, but the good thing is sometimes you learn from it. So, like, personally, when I'm criticizing it got to a point, like anything, it gets to the point where if I'm sending anything with my name on it, I'm very, very careful. Okay, we send email, when just a common email, someone will just send an email and be like, did you really read this? Because like in the world of academia, sometimes you are doing it so wrong, because it's so complicated already, you are doing it wrong, you don't even know you are doing it wrong. You understand? So it's always very good to put your emotions aside. That's a very big thing. Put your emotions aside and listen to the comments and read it very closely. In my example, sometimes at a point I'm like, this guy doesn't like me. But at the end of the day, he really liked me. Like, he even hypes me in front of his classes. But at first I thought he hated me. Okay. So comments like that, sometimes, like I said, put your emotions away and not take things personal. Like Dolly already said, don't take things personal at all. Just listen to the comments and fix it. So all those comments are things that make you fix yourself. So sometimes you just have to be honest with yourself. Sometimes I did interviews before that I wouldn't even hire myself. You understand? So these comments are things that make you better. Okay, so that's one thing I'll say. These comments, sometimes they are very brutal. Some people don't know how to put things in a nice way. You just put your emotions aside and look at the comments and fix them. That's all I'll say. Thanks.
Anything else to add from our other panelists?
Well, I think collaboration is very important, like as they've mentioned. So one of the connections I had was attending a colleague's dissertation defense. So after the defense, I started asking him some questions about his work, and his work was his health research. So yeah, this guy realized that I showed some interest in health research. So, and he's currently collaborating with National Institute of Health. So he has published a lot of work with NIH. So he spoke with the correspondents in NIH that he has a friend that he would like to bring on board. Yeah, so he spoke well of me. I don't know much about health research, but the fact that I showed interest in what he was doing and I asked questions that he felt that, no, this guy really has some interest. And I'm currently collaborating with NIH, and so far we've worked on a number of papers. Some of 3 have been accepted. I think yesterday they just published one of them, and yeah, it's been so far so good. So, and also when you submit a paper to a journal and it's rejected, it's normal. Just know that that is not the right journal for you. You can always submit to another journal. Yeah, it's always a normal thing to get your paper rejected. I mean, we've had a number of rejections, in my collaborative work with NIH, and it's fine. You just find a different journal, and yeah, you see how it goes. You keep trying other journals until you get accepted. Yeah, so that's what I can add to that.
All right, thank you so much, our panel members. I will continue to remind our audience to keep your questions coming, because this event is meant for you to have all your concerns addressed. We have one question here, which is asking, is there any age limit as to when you can pursue a grad school or pursue graduate student school education? Any advice for such an individual?
I would say there's no age limit at all. I'd like to answer one of the questions I saw very recently. I think I mentioned the fact that you should opt for the master's with a thesis. So the reason why I said that was mostly because if you want to do a PhD, you want to see if you have a potential for a PhD. Doing something with a thesis shows the potential of you doing a dissertation. Dissertation is more extensive and a lot more things going into it. So if you don't have a thesis, it's like work experience. If I know that you've done something before, you have a chance of doing better or doing as well as you've done before. So doing the thesis is, if you want to go into industry, no one really cares how many people you want, like how many papers you've written. But if you want to go do a PhD or be in academia, you need to have if you have that option to go for it, I advise you go for that route. Yeah. Thanks.
Data collection. A guy is talking about data collections, and I don't know if you have a response to that. He said, I'm involved in data collection exercise for the World Bank, and he's basically a field enumerator, and he wants to know if that can add as research experience.
Yeah. Our panel members, does anyone wants to take that question?
Exercise. Yeah, that's definitely research experience, right? Like in the social sciences, well, not just social sciences, but when you're collecting data, that's a big research experience. I was also going to add to what Daniel said regarding that if you are doing the master's, if you have the opportunity to do a project rather than a non-master's thesis, a lot of PhDs would also ask for a writing sample, and I think you alluded to that. And so if you don't have any publication or you don't have a good team paper that stands out, that project is probably what you're going to put there, right? And even if you choose not to go into higher education, I have friends who actually at their job interviews in industry have said, and I'm also great at writing, I have this writing sample if you can. So at that level, it's just a plus for you. You don't need it, it's a plus. But if you have it and you need it for higher education, it's already there, right? And so I guess that answers both questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else that any of you want to add on the same topic?
Yeah, publication is very, very important. Even as a master's student, I mean, your dissertation, your thesis, it's a write-up. So instead of just writing like a report, why don't you just break it down into something that you can publish as a publication? For one, I published 2 papers out of my master's thesis, which was one of the major key to getting admission. So, I mean, it's really, really important. And if there's that option in your school, and I think in here in most of the institutions, I think that option is there. Yeah, that option is there. And I think professors would be glad to even have a student who want to publish with them. Yeah, that also adds to their portfolio. So yeah, it's something that my professor here actually does with all of us, both masters and PhDs. Publication is a must. Yeah. So I will encourage that. Even if you don't have the if your intention is not to go into academia or into any research institution or pursue PhD, I mean, you don't know when that could be at an advantage to you in the course of your stay here or your life. So I mean, it's a great option to publish.
Thank you. So I have a question here. The person
And
said,
let me add one thing. And
okay.
as a matter of fact, I think we will come to that green card application and all that. For us, publications is one of the key way to get your green card. One of the key and easy means to get your green card in the US here. With a higher degree, which is master's. If you have master's and you have publications and citations, I think it's one of the key. I think we'll come to that. So let me just leave it out for now.
Thank you so much, our panel members. There is a question here. The person said, I would like to hear from somebody doing a science-based PhD, since there are not a lot of Black people doing these. But I think this question applies to most of us all. Could you speak to your experience as minority in the department dealing with biases against you, or people may be looking down on you and your abilities? So how do you deal with that if you've had that experience? Any suggestions or comment on that question?
So I would take it from the angle of, I guess before you come into grad school, reach out to people who are, these are problems that exist everywhere, right? It's a people's problem, not institution problem. And so sometimes it's just a little as reaching out to other Black people from Africa in the department to ask them, like, what really were your experiences, right? Before you come in. Now, while you're in the system, I will say, I think I'm just, have a different outlook on life. I like to put a lot of positive spins on stuff. I haven't personally gone through an experience where I thought somebody targeted me because I was Black or African. And if it was microaggression, I didn't notice it, right? So a lot of times we have to try to come into this knowing that we are good at what we do. We are equally as good as the next person next to us. And so if someone is questioning my work, I will sit down and look at it. Do they have a valid point? Because sometimes it is your work. You are doing the wrong thing. It's not because of where you are from. And right. So I think that there's a lot of talk about how the system is not fair, but there's also a lot of work being done to ensure that a lot of us can make it in the system, right? And so I haven't necessarily dealt with those biases. I taught a class and I know someone told me, you have to be careful with the students because they'll tell you your accent, they can't hear you and they write horrible reports. The first time I went into class, I said to them, I'm from Ghana. Ghana was colonized by the British. We speak English. Anytime I say a word you do not understand, remind yourself that I have no clue what you're saying either. And so if I say something and it's not clear to you, tell me, what do you mean? Because we are probably not understanding each other. The comments I got were, wow, she has a fantastic accent. She speaks wonderful English. I was like, yeah. So you need to understand the system you're going into. You need to work hard, make sure that if you think there's a legitimate case that is based on where you're from, you have a case, right? Because everybody will know that, no, this person, they do their work well, they're diligent, they're hardworking. It's a case of bias, racism, or whatever it may be. But I personally have not experienced that. And, everybody's experience is different as well. I know people who have, but I haven't.
Yeah, I think Dolly said almost everything, but what I'd like to add is this. My experience was in my first experience in the US was in Montana State, where when you see another Black person, you're super excited. Now I heard things have changed, so there are a lot more Black people than there were. At that time, we were literally 2 in the whole town, myself and another Ghanaian. So in that kind of scenario, the thing that makes us stand out is the quality of work, right? So you don't want to bring things that will be like, oh, he's not good enough, right? Like I said, anything that comes from you should be of high quality. Because number one, the fact that it's coming from you is already being scrutinized. Understand? So you want to have the best quality all the time. So I have this friend who was in my, before I came, like I said, we're 2 people. He was before me. Anytime, he always made sure that he was always on top of the class, just because of his pride. You understand? He wants to be like, oh, like he's a Black person and he's a minority and he's on top of, he's doing better than all of them. So like I said, it comes to quality. So that way, they didn't look down on him because he's much better than you. Everything shows it. So you have to bring out the best. That's why we have to do the extra more work. But when it comes to the point, maybe when you are speaking, the thing is, we can never be as fluent as they are. That's the only language they speak. You understand? So you might not be as fluent as they are, but like I always say, intelligence is not eloquence. So the fact that you're eloquent doesn't mean you are smart. A lot of the Chinese, they don't speak very good English, but they are super smart. Like you see, so in stuff like I would say, just in a nutshell, just bring out the highest quality you can ever give. And that might help. Thanks.
I need to chime in quickly with the comment of not being fluent. And this is also something that someone said to me one time about how, if someone is from, I don't want to mention, let's say Eastern European country, right? They are expatriates when they are here. When we are from Africa, we are immigrants, right? There's those terms. Someone's from France and they speak English and it's not fluently, nobody really goes like, oh, wow, your English is not great. So it's a perception, right? And so we are fluent in English. Everybody has an accent, including, and so sometimes it's awareness. It's when someone says, oh, you speak different, you remind them, you speak differently too. Where are you from? We have to do this because, and sometimes you need to remind someone, I speak 5 languages. How many do you speak? It changes people's mindset, right? Because they sit there thinking you are making grammatical errors, you can't speak English, you don't know what you're saying. But the truth is, if you were from a different country or you look differently, it would be, wow, look at you, fantastic. You speak German and you speak English, great. We are great too, right? And so for me, it's one of the things that I just do not like on all levels. I do not. But the other thing I also do is I make sure other people review my work, because if we are going to elevate ourselves as the best, people have to, you have to do extra work, finding people to review your work, making sure it's great, sending it out to your professors, sometimes reminding them that in Ghana, we speak English. We do know what we are doing. We do grammar. We speak excellent English. We know all the idiomatic expressions. How many people use idioms in this country? No one. So I would like to say we are just excellent, is all I want to say.
Thank you for that, Dr. Dolly. I want us to just touch on our final question I have, and then if time permits, we'll take some of the questions from our audience. So we know that grad school comes with a lot of stress. So I want you to, and some of us, we are not even aware when we are stressed or when we are under stress. So I would like you to highlight some of the ways that we experience stress in our as grad students and some of the ways that we can deal with those stresses. Any of you can take it.
Well, I think one of the ways that I de-stress is when I have so much to do, like a lot of homeworks, a lot of work to turn in, you know, it could be research, it could be anything. So I've always tried to remind myself that, you know, take it a step at a time. So I try to accomplish each task at a time, and I usually start with the easy ones, so that it's reduce, you know, the number of you know, things that I have to do. And as I reduce the number of tasks, it eases the pressure and the stress. So that's how I do manage that. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Cody, how did you handle stress when you were a student? And what were some of the sources of stress?
And one advice that Daniel told me, you know, Daniel was my office mate. He always told me to eat well. And I try to eat well because I used not to have time for myself, like cooking and all that. But Daniel advised me to always try to eat well. And I think that was a very good advice, and it has helped a lot. Yeah.
And you have to, one thing we forget is like working so much, but you have to take care of yourself. Right now in modern times, the mental health thing, and if you're over here for some reason, the mental health thing is serious. Because in Ghana, it's more social. You can always talk to someone. It's like mentally less stressful. Someone will come and worry you, and it's even healthy for you. Well, over here, no one is even talking to you. So like, it's good to take care of us. Like, do something out of, like, just take a break sometimes. Taking a break doesn't mean you're not doing anything for 1 week. That's not a break. Like, be smart about it. Like, take a break, take care of yourself, sleep well, eat well, have something outside academia, because life is short. Like I always say, really take care of yourself. Like I said, like I told Paul, you have to chill. You have to enjoy good food. Enjoy good food, like, you understand? Enjoy good food, relax. Yeah, I play a lot of video games. Do something that you don't normally do. It's good. So once you come back to like real work, you are going all out. You understand? You are going like 100% at it. Because if you're always at one thing all the time, your brain naturally is going to depreciate, like in terms of how much productivity you are putting in. So once you go off a little bit and come back, you have more energy at being productive. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Anything else?
Dolly made a point of having someone to talk to, making friends. I mean, relatives once a while. I mean, it really helps. Always have someone to talk to. Some words of encouragement can really help, because I mean, academic stress can be really, really, really something else. And having someone to at least always talk to, words of encouragement to ease your mind off, that is really, really important. And I think that has really helped me. Yeah, that has really, really helped me. And also engaging in some extracurricular activities, as has been said. Yeah, so I mean, free your mind. Initially, when I came, I mean, I was all academics, but then later on, I started hitting the gym. I mean, some football on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I really saw that there was a lot of improvement physically and mentally, because I was really taking away a lot of stress. After that, you come back, shower, freshen up, and when you sit behind your PC or your computer, you see that work could be really going smoothly. Yeah, so it's really, really important. Yeah, and so that's the little I can add.
Yeah, so we have a question from our audience, and he would like to know, how do you switch between advisors if, say, your advisor is not really helping you achieve your target or your goal? Dr. Dolly, can you help us?
Yes, I have plenty of experience switching advisors. But I will say that it's it depends on the situation as well. And every university also has a process for this, right? And so I don't want to give generic advice how to switch it, because you are still going to be in this department and you don't want to, any conflict. And so one of the first things I'll say is, if there's a graduate coordinator who handles all graduate students, you might want to go talk to them and ask them, what is the process to switch advisors? Or you might, depend on who your advisor is. I had a situation in my department where the students and the advisor actually agreed that the projects they were doing, they weren't really, they weren't compatible. So they actually agreed to go their separate ways. It was fine. But in other times, it's actually a toxic relationship where you need a department to get involved and to separate you. So the main thing I would say is figure out what the official process for your department is. And if it's easy to go that route, do it. If your department also has a policy, because some departments have a policy where you have a year to decide. And so at the end of the year, you can just say, oh, I'm now interested in working with somebody else. Alternatively, if you have a situation where you can have a co-advisor situation and you think that works for you, you could consider that as well. Yeah, I just ended up in a situation where I just had to change my advisor, right? And so I think it's situation is specific to where I don't want to give very detailed step-by-step of what I did, right? So, yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Any other comment on this issue? We have someone who joined us. He's from Zambia. Thank you for joining the Ghanaian community here. He would like to, he will need help with master's school applications. So if any of our panel members would like to share their emails with them, you can go ahead and directly share your emails with him so that he can follow up after this discussion. So at this point, I would like to take final comment from our panelists, and then we'll have our vote of thanks, and then we'll call it a day. But it has been so much insightful session today. So I will take final comment from our panel members.
Well, I think my final comments would be, my final remarks would be like, so when you come to the US, so I'm talking to those that are here. So if you are here for the first, let's say, if this is your first semester or year, just take your time to familiarize with the environment, okay? Understand the city in which you find yourself, the school you find yourself, know what you want to do in the short term and then long term. By way of an example, if you want to work or if you want to do an internship, I mean, there are opportunities like the career fair. If your school has a career fair, take advantage of that. And if your school doesn't have that effective career fair, it means you have to do a lot of applications and a lot of reach out on LinkedIn. So basically understand the opportunities and then the challenges that you may face in wherever you find yourself. Yeah.
Yes, I can go.
Yeah, okay.
I had a lot of little notes I was taking, but let me try to summarize them into ask for help. I think it's, ask for help. Remember, you are not alone in this. We've all gone through it. Any experience you think you are going through, there's somebody else who has gone through it. Don't compare yourself with others, because imposter syndrome is real. And I also wanted to say, in this grad school journey, we are absolutely going to deal with failures. Like, we'll deal with losses, failing class. There's just like life, there will be unpleasant situations that you go through. And so try not to give up when that happens, and which goes back to the seeking help and relying on a community that would support you through it, right? But just know that if this is what you wanted, on the rough days, remind yourself. Like when I was sitting in Ghana and I didn't like this class, I was like, I'm coming to America to do this thing. Remind yourself of why, like remind yourself of the why you wanted to do this on bad days, right? And if we're all here, the 50% that are still hoping to come to grad school, you can be here too and do better. And we all do great things to go back and help Mother Ghana, right? So it's great to meet you all.
Okay, so let me just touch a little bit on green card application. I'm sure Dr. Nai and Dr. Kwate might have a lot to say on that, but so it's very important if you want to be here and work. Getting a green card here, it's very, very important and can create a lot of opportunities for you. You have a green card, I mean, you have the muscle to even bargain your salary if you have a green card. I mean, no one can take advantage of you. So this EB-2NIW, which is National Interest Waiver, and to qualify for National Interest Waiver, which will be an application for an I-140, you need a higher qualification or a higher degree, and a higher degree that is master's and above. So master's, so you have a higher degree, and the next requirement, you should have publications and citations, right? And citations and some other international work that you have done. My other panelists made mention of you registering to be a reviewer for certain journals and all that is very important. Yeah, register to be a reviewer, and that could also be an advantage to applying for this particular category of for green card. So you have a master's degree, you have publications, you have certain number of citations, and the next key things will be getting recommendations. That is, you probably need about 3 independent recommendations and probably 1 dependent recommendation or 2 dependent recommendation. Dependent could be your professors, and independent is basically not a professor or anyone who has taught you, but someone you have met briefly, maybe at a conference, or someone who have probably even cited your paper and can reach out to the person. So these are basically the requirements to petition for an I-140 that is under EB-2 National Interest Waiver category for applying for a green card. And so basically, that is just one thing I need to add. And for people like Dr. Na and Dr. Kwate, there's another, they can also go through the same, they have their PhDs already, and they can apply for another category, which is EB-2 outstanding researchers. They already have their PhDs, EB-2 outstanding researchers. They can apply for EB-2 NIW or EB-2 outstanding researchers because they already have their PhDs and they have a number of publications and citations as well, and already engaged in. I was muted. So I have already started, and for EB-2 NIW, you can start even whilst you're in school. You can get your green card before, whilst you're even still in school. So that is one thing that I would like to put forward, and anyone who wants to be here should start embarking on that, because you might want to use OPT option after school, and after OPT, what next? You want to go in for H-1B, which is, depends on the company you might be working for, if they are ready to sponsor you and all that. You want to go through that process. Yeah, people go through that process, but then this option that even with just a master's degree and with some publications, you can start that process before you even graduate. You already have your green card, and life will be a bit easier for you in the US here. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, just a short final comment from Dr. Kwate. Yeah, short of time. So
Yeah, all I like to say is at every stage, we should learn from it. So for example, when you're in Ghana, you want to come here. When you are here now, you want to get good grades. When you get good grades, you want to get experience. When you get experience, you want a job. There's always going to be a point in your life that you want to move to the next step. So all I'll say is you should try and learn from the experience. So every experience, once you learn well from it, you can be in a position to advise other people. Yeah, so that's the little I'll say.
All
Thank
right.
you all. Thanks for
Thank
listening.
you so much. So we'll have our vote of thanks at this moment if we still have time. Yeah.
So please, if anyone wants to go through like this kind of green card application process, I've gone through it. So I have a lot of information. I have a lot of documents. I use an attorney and they shared with me almost all the documents, all the requirements I needed and everything. And so sure, I can share that information with anybody who is interested, who might not even want to go through an attorney. They really charge very hugely, about 5,000 for an attorney fee. Yeah. Yeah, but then I have the petition they wrote. They wrote the petition themselves, their recommendation letters, they drafted everything themselves and all that. I have all of them, and at least I've get some experience. So if you don't have that much money to go through it, I can share all those documents with you to at least follow the steps and go through yours. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Rananajwa, please give us our vote of thanks and close us.
This has been an exciting and interesting and learning curve time for all of us here. And first of all, I just want to thank our panels for taking out time out of their busy schedule. As they were talking, I just realized like this people might be very busy. So you guys taking time out to come talk to us, educate us, teach us a lot of stuff. We appreciate it and we are very grateful. All we can say on behalf of GRATSAC and the executives of GRATSAC, all I'm saying is thank you very much. We appreciate you and we appreciate the time and the knowledge spent on us. And to all of you who joined this session, we say thank you and we hope it's something that you wanted and you learned something from it as well. And so we wish that everyone who is going through grad school here in the US or back in Ghana or is planning to come the best, and hope this information is very helpful to you all. I just have some few announcements to make. GRATSAC USA has also extended the application fee waiver to November 30th. And so if you are in Ghana or you are here and you are planning to apply to any grad school in the US here, you would have to just submit your application for the fee waiver. The flyer is on all our social media platforms and LinkedIn, everywhere you can find the flyer, and then look at the requirements which is needed and then submit it to us so we can help you with the application waiver. And if you're also applying to school here and then you need someone to review your personal statements and then your cover letter or CV or resume, you can just send it to us, but that is first come, first serve. And so if you don't come early, we are not guaranteeing that we are going to do it for you. But if we get it on time, then we can do something about it for you as well. And also the last thing is that to be able to continue organizing this kind of programs, we still do need some funds. There are other projects that GRATSAC executives are planning to do for you, like those of us here and those of you in Ghana as well. And so we are reaching out, we are sending emails, and so very soon you'll be receiving emails or messages from us. So please do not turn away from us. We are requesting that you support us with anybody you know or any resources you have to make this program to be organized a success. And so that will be it for today. And we appreciate all of you joining us today. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Esther and
Yes.
Janet would add a little bit. Janet?
Okay, so thank you all once again for joining. Just a quick one.
I think most of us were able to join this session because someone shared a flyer or someone gave an information about this webinar. And I know most of us have been blessed and we've actually been enlightened on graduate school life here. So just to add up, we are seeking for senators, that's basically representatives from university in the USA, and what they will be doing to help disseminate information about GradSAC USA to their Ghanaians in their schools. So if you are in any university in the USA here and you would want to be a senator, you would want to represent GradSAC, I would kindly share a link now on the chat box so that you can kindly apply. I just shared it. So you can kindly apply, fill in your details, and we will add you to the senators community so that you can also help make GradSAC known in your universities. Thank you.
It's been such an insightful day, and thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your week. So we'll say goodbye for now.
Hi everyone, and this video will be put on YouTube, so you can check out our YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.